now we're going to go somewhere that no one has boldly gone before, except for a very particular subset of the Star Trek universe. So, you know, call it a Disco Inferno, call it whatever you want, as long as you call it Star Trek Discovery Season 3. That's right, Season 3 of the CBS All Access series, soon to be a Paramount Plus series, brings us into the far-flung future of the Star Trek universe. Now, the Disco Season 3 premiere takes us through the other side of a wormhole to the year 3188, where once more Michael Burnham serves as our audience surrogate, giving us a window into a wild new era of Trek. Now, as our reviewer on Nerdist.com, Riley Silverman, noted, Season 3 literally starts with Michael Burnham calling for a full system reboot, which kind of feels like a nice fourth wall breaking moment, asking for a fresh start for this series. So I'm curious, Eric, you're one of the biggest Trekkies or Trekkers that I know, depending on your preferred nomenclature. I am curious, what do you think this time jump does for the series, and is this a good place for new viewers to jump on?
Yeah, I've seen the first three, and I definitely think it's a good place. It's the smartest thing the show could have done, because it's kind of prequel era time frame never really worked for me. I loved the characters. The production value was great. The acting was great, but like being shoehorned into the prequel thing didn't work. And now it's like, oh my gosh, we're 900 years past any Star Trek that we know. It's a completely fresh slate, and it's exciting. We want to know what these races and characters that we've come to love over 50 years could become, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think it's the smartest thing they could have ever done, and I think it is. You don't need to have really seen the previous seasons. This is a great jumping on point. I mean, it matters what happened, but you really can just start watching it from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I was very excited when Disco first premiered. But I've only seen the first 2 episodes of Season 1. But then I jumped in on Season 3, and I was like, okay, sounds like you guys had a tough time back in that universe, but now you're so far in the future that it doesn't really matter. Now I'm just curious about this awesome, Archangel-looking spacesuit that you used to fly through a wormhole in. Yeah. So speaking from my own experience, I did not feel that much behind the 8 ball, because I do think that they do a great job of positioning Michael Burnham as this audience surrogate, where you get to be just as confused as she is, but they dole out enough cool world building and enough connections to the past that you don't feel totally untethered from the bigger Star Trek of it all. But I'm curious as well, because this has been kind of a challenge they've faced. What do you think that Discovery needs to do to bring lapsed fans back into the fold and bring in new audiences? Why should people be watching Discovery right now, Keisha?
I think they should continue to do what they're doing right now, is have that full system reboot where it's still pulling on those classic Star Trek themes of exploration and discovering new life and overcoming the odds and having this message of hope, but also not being so tied to canon and worrying, I can't take this character in this direction because it doesn't line up with XYZ in the timeline. So now that they have this creative freedom to really imagine a world beyond Gene Roddenberry's vision, just not totally disregarding it, but just expanding upon it. Because when he thought of Star Trek, this was in the 50s. And, when their idea of the future was something that's completely different now. We have new technology, we have new knowledge. And so let's use that and propel it even further so that we're not losing the core of Star Trek, but we're imagining something even more than what came before.
Yeah, and I think that's a fantastic point. It's right there in the core ethos of the series, boldly going where no one has gone before. It's hard to think of a further flung future from, you take this already kind of a vision of what an attempt at a utopian society might look like, and then how that breaks down, and then you take that even further. What happens when all of these things that that made that past universe possible start exploding? Where do you go from there? How do you rebuild? And I think it's a very exciting premise to start off on. But the question then becomes, where does the Star Trek universe go from here? Because, Disco doesn't exist in a void. We have spin-offs from previous Discoververse characters like Michelle Yeoh's Captain Giorgio. We have Anson Mount's Captain Pike getting a spin-off. Animated series like Lower Decks for adults. You have Picard. You have Prodigy for kids. It's bringing back Janeway. So, Amy, I think that you were in kind of a similar boat to me where you appreciate Star Trek, but you're maybe not, you haven't beamed aboard every single episode of every single series. But where do you think that Star Trek needs to go from here? Where would you like to see it go?
Well, I was consulting with you because I wasn't caught up on Discovery. And so I jumped forward to this and can heavily endorse that you can jump right in with the beginning of season 3. I love Trek. Trek is in my DNA, and that has meant, like, for me, I haven't seen everything. There's still some seasons of Enterprise that I'm going to catch up on at some point. But the main thing I want to see from Star Trek is just live, grow, continue. And so on that level, it's a delicious time. I can't believe we have 2 different animated series going on and coming. My Captain Janeway is coming back. The funny thing is, Discovery right now has shades of Voyager, shades of we're here. Can we ever go home? Who knows? But what are we gonna do while we're here? And I love that. I think it's a fun new side. I was shamelessly affected by the ending of episode 1 of season 3 because you can always hit that "what the Federation means to me" button and it will produce the waterworks for me. It's just a robotic thing. But I love that they get to do something different. They're like, we're kind of an action show. We have all exciting production values and set pieces, and we're coming at it from a different direction. And I think that's really fun. I just love the idea of lots of it existing alongside each other.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point. It's kind of been a bit of my issue with Star Wars, where we're starting to get a bit more of that now, where you're only kind of getting the same kind of flavors from this vast universe. And now with all the different Trek offerings, it feels like this rich tapestry. Like you can get, like, if you want to laugh, you can do this. If you have a younger fan you want to introduce, you can show them Prodigy. If you want something that feels a little more traditional, or you want familiar faces, you can show them like Picard. Or I'm just very excited by the sort of, it feels like they've restored that feeling of possibility to the Star Trek universe. But I'm curious, Eric, where would you like to see the Trekverse go from here?
I want them to focus on the shows that they have announced now and making sure those are all really, really good. Because it seems like they're constantly announcing new spinoffs, and I think there's 5 now. And I'm like, I like all of these shows, but I think that they're good, but I want them to be great. And my one issue with, even this goes for Picard too, is a lot of the sci-fi stuff part of it feels like sci-fi I've seen elsewhere recently, and I want them to give me ideas that kind of blow my mind. And right now I'm like, okay, the AI stuff in Discovery and Picard to a certain extent feels a little Westworld, feels a little BSG, and I want them to do something that doesn't remind me of anything, So I'd rather that they focus on the shows that they've got and making them fantastic. And Star Trek has a history of season 3 being, at least modern post-original series Star Trek, season 3 is usually when everything starts getting really good. That goes for Next Generation, that goes for Deep Space Nine, and on. So I'm really hoping that that's, history is repeating itself, that this is where the show kind of finds itself. But that's really what I want. I want them to kind of focus a little bit more on what they've got and less on let's do this new thing, unless it's a DS9 continuation, in which case I do want to see that.
DS10 coming to a show near you very soon, coming to your local streaming service.
What? No new Enterprise? Come on.
Well,
no, they can't make a new one until Amy finishes. It's contractual.
No. So I watched all the Andorian episodes. They were the best ones.
Season 4 of Enterprise is really good. I'll say that.